late in the day, but it is a Friday, and so it's a great time to be talking about the 24-hour economy. We've heard about the airport. For this segment, we have local business owner Jessica Jenkins, a seasoned professional in the hospitality industry, boasting 2 decades of experience across Australia and the UK, and a strong foundation in hospitality. She has successfully established herself as the proud owner of 3 hospitality businesses in Penrith, including one of my favourites in town, and the grilled chicken sandwich, the fantastic Mr. Watkins. Joining Jess is Michael Rodrigues, New South Wales' first ever 24-hour economy commissioner.
Brought your fan club.
First ever 24-hour economy commissioner. Having been appointed in April 2021, Michael is responsible for delivering the 24-hour economy strategy. How did that go through? Oh, we don't say the word, do we? BC. The airport is going to be 24/7, which means we are too. Isn't that right? Over to you, Stuart.
Thanks, Richard. Well, this is a panel that or fireside chat with an extra person. So it's a combination. This is one I'm really looking forward to because we've spoken a lot about through the course of the day, infrastructure, hotels, people operating experiences. But an element of the visitor economy is the hospitality part of the economy. And it's not just an alcohol-based economy at night. It operates largely throughout the course of the entire day, services an absolute plethora of different customers. And it's had a really challenging period of time coming through COVID. And unlike other parts of the visitor economy that probably haven't been as exposed or don't have the international trade, you get quite exposed to the way the domestic economy is performing as well. And so I know it's been a challenging time for operators, but Mike, I want to start with you. 24-hour economy commissioner. It's a relatively new role from a public service perspective. You're not a traditional public servant. You've come out of industry to come into government. Give us a bit of a sense around what your function in government is and how your role is to get government and business or industry working a bit closer together.
Yeah, so it's the primary. We often make this assumption that bad things happen at night, and someone put it to me well last night. It said that friends and people fall in love after midnight, so good things do happen. But the way that we set the penal colony up is as we shut it all down at night. So there's this rebuttable thing I've got to do, which is to turn that no at night into a yes unless. Like yes unless is a good reason we shouldn't do it at night. So to champion that in amongst a paradigm that we've just set up that doesn't reflect it. From a regulatory perspective, from a compliance perspective, we just haven't set it up correctly, and the 24-hour airport is a really good chance to reset thinking across the state around this. So to champion that notion. The second aspect is to coordinate across a really complicated stakeholder set, and had I known how complicated it was, Stuart, I probably would not have taken the job when you invited me to throw my hat in the ring. But there's about 20 different government departments that have to coordinate, teams across government departments at New South Wales level. That's where a lot of the controls and levers are: planning, transport, policing, liquor regulation. There's only 128 councils across New South Wales, another small detail, each of whom run on different systems. And then we work across a sector that, from the going out experience, includes everything from your researching of a experience through to your transport, the entertainment aspect of it, the food and drink aspect of it, and your safe return home. So when you break that down, that's pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants, entertainment facilities. So to coordinate, the magic then happens if you can align everybody there. So from state through to local council, through the industry, all for the service of the one person that we don't think about enough, which is the consumer who we're trying to persuade to come out against the rain, against the cost, all for the alternative of what they have currently, which is to sit at home and press Netflix and Uber Eats and have it all brought to their house. So that's the riddle I'm trying to solve for. And it's an interesting perspective to listen to some of the previous panel, because you really have to start asking yourself, is this just a market competitive thing that we're thinking about? Or is it actually a response to an existential threat about the going out ecosystem altogether?
So, Jess, you operate a couple of venues in Penrith.
Yes.
Cafes, bars, So you're operating across the 24-hour spectrum. You've been involved in some of the programs that have come through the 24-hour Economy Commissioner's Office, Uptown program being one of those. Why don't you give the audience a bit of insight into how it's been to work with those programs and how they've made you think about your business?
Yeah, no, look, we loved working with the 24-hour economy team. It opened up access to people that we just wouldn't have access to out in Penrith. It made us really sit down and think about what we wanted our precinct to look like as a 24-hour precinct, especially with the airport opening soon. So, you know, at the moment, we're on the high street in Penrith. All of my venues, or our venues, are on the high street in Penrith. And you're right, we do go across the day, into the night, into late night. Elton Chong is also a 2 a.m. licence now. So we just wanted to really, crystallise what we wanted our precinct to look like, how we needed to change as a precinct, how we would work together with other small businesses, so other nighttime economy businesses, other cafes, and it's just been awesome. We've never thought about ourselves as a precinct. We've just thought about ourselves as individual businesses. But now we're working together collectively to move forward and hopefully get some change and make some change. You know, just to the basics of lighting and streetscape and things like that. And we want to get people off the couches and back out and eating and drinking.
So let's talk a little bit more about the things that do need to change. Mike, you spend a lot of time looking at the regulatory framework that's put in place in New South Wales. I think it's successive governments have wanted to reform and make doing business at different types or different times of the day easier to do. That runs into some competitive tension in communities with things like safety and noise being regular concerns. What's happening at the government and regulatory level to maybe tilt that a bit back towards the economy and the business favour?
Yeah, so, and I think it's just really important to recognise that in order for the paradigm to change, i.e. to change the laws, you need support from broad support across the political spectrum, which is, when you look at what we have in New South Wales, that's been the catalyst for it. It's basically a non-partisan issue between both sides of politics on this, and that gives you the foundation that you can start pushing what for the longest time has been seen as a discussion that's characterised by alcohol and violence. Like, that's what attaches itself to nightlife, which is, I can go for hours on this particular issue, so I'll stop there. And we've replaced that discussion with 24-hour economy, city vibrancy, culture, entertainment. And that's a much more nuanced, more complicated, but accurate description of what communities exist for, to bring us all together. And so from I guess the regulatory impetus for this really began probably most significantly with the removal of the lockout law. It was like, unless we can get ourselves past that, we're going nowhere. So, and then in this term of government, most recently, the vibrancy reform agenda, as it's called, has seen a whole bunch of other initiatives put in place to loosen up the system to make it more flexible to trade. In particular, really trying to address the noise and sound issues, which in a system where you don't have this organisation, which is, I'm really keen to make that point to the room, the more organised you are, the more that is possible. For years, the system just atrophied because of sector indifference to the overall operating conditions, in which that's why you end up with 7 government agencies regulating noise. It's not the government's issue, it's the sector not saying to the government, we need 3, we need 2, and pushing government to do it. And the only way government can respond is when the sector gets together and gives it a really clear direction. So fixing the noise and regulatory landscape piece has been a big piece of work. There's a whole, I don't want to take up too much time on it, but there's the law reform aspect, but then you need to also think about the bureaucratic processes and systems that underpin, because you can change the law, but if the system itself doesn't, if you can't find the right form, and the enforcement procedures don't accompany the legislative change, then, you know, I query the value of it. So that's something that I'm really focused on as well.
And I want to pick up that theme and say that it's not just about government. because government can change regs, change laws, but someone's still got to operate a commercial business. And one of the things that your office has done in government is create the Purple Flags program, which is a way of setting some standards that are not just about safety, but around the quality of the experience, the diversity of the experience. Do you see more Purple Flag districts coming in Western Sydney?
Yeah, absolutely. So think about the Uptown program that Jess and her team are part of as like a precursor to the Purple Flag certification scheme. We've got 3 certified Purple Flag districts with a 4th under assessment at the moment, and things take time in government. I'm pretty impatient, but we've got to assess and evaluate that and then ideally scale it up. But the primary KPI for me, and also then I can justify my extensive sneaker collection, is to see Purple Flag zones all across Greater Sydney, and in Penrith as well would be a great outcome. So that's in the next 12 months, you'll see that evolve.
And Jess, from an operator's perspective, what are some of the things that can be done to make life a little bit easier for the small business operator on, well, in Penrith High Street is called High Street, on the High Street, you know, whether it's in Queen Street, Liverpool, or Campbelltown? Like, what are some of the things that you're experiencing that you wish just could make life a little bit easier?
Well, yeah, for example, Elton Chong, we went for the 2 a.m. licence. It took 14 months. 14 months with liquor and gaming to get it approved. And I feel like sometimes government agencies look at a small business and think there's a whole team of people working on admin and all of the forms and all the things that you need to do, when in actual fact it's usually like one person or 2 people max that are doing all of that sort of stuff. So I think, yeah, just cutting some of the red tape, making it a little bit easier to access these forms and not needing, you know, all these crazy conditions. And, you know, one thing with the 2 a.m. licence, you know, we had licensing police saying, oh, you need to put on a security guard from 9 p.m. till 2 a.m. And it's like, well, that kind of makes it not worthwhile even opening till 2 a.m. anymore, you know. And they just tend to paint all the businesses with the same brush and don't look at businesses on their own individual merit and how they've operated in the past and the issues that they've had or not had.
And does that mean that we're overcorrecting for risk?
Yes, 100%.
And like this is a salient point to jump in on, and in my coordination role, what you're looking at, in the same way you have the challenges with councils being decentralised and running their own operating systems, that's also how some of the decision making works when it comes to policing. And so those types of conditions, the ambition should be to find a way of reaching a standardised approach, really. And so inevitably, a lot of the work that we've done has really been focused on ground zero for lockout, which is the CBD of Sydney. And if we had the Superintendent of Police, Marty Fileman, here from the City of Sydney, he'd be telling you a very different story when it comes to that. And what he's been able to start instituting in, and you can talk to all the operators in the CBD of Sydney about this, is a real partnership approach with venues.
But that can be replicated anywhere, whether it's Penrith or Liverpool.
I'd love to see that happen, and that's me maintaining a dialogue with the police, and that relationship's one of the key relationships that underpins all of this. But what it requires is the operators at scale to all behave themselves, and this state has not had a good history of venue compliance across the state. And I was in 2 lots of parliamentary inquiries with police commissioners and everybody else, and at the time that they began in 2014, there was an honour amongst thieves approach in the licensed venue space, and that's in the corporate memory of the police force. And until the sector decided actually we need to call out bad behaviour in amongst ourselves and help the district reach a better standard of operation, it's been hard to break that corporate memory. But we're seeing positive signs in different parts of the city, and yeah, working with police in this area is fundamental to the delivery of Purple Flag, for example, and that's what that is. It's a catalyst for bringing that policing discussion into the mix, and then once you've got good operators, everyone aligned, you can have a sensible conversation and hopefully things improve.
And I'm interested around the idea of being more flexible on permissible uses for existing buildings. I think a lot of people would be surprised that Mr. Watkins and other venues, to use Penrith as an example, probably exist in the actual building they're in because used to be a restaurant,
100%.
or it used to have
We
some...
won't touch a venue unless it has an existing liquor licence that
Yeah.
we can transfer over to us, because the red tape and the amount of time that it takes and money and resources, it's not worth it. It's not
So
worth it.
that makes it very difficult
Yeah.
for someone else to come into the market to then offer more diversity in the way the economy operates across different times of the day. Yeah. I've asked this question to most panellists today. Are you optimistic about the future?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It's been a bumpy ride.
Look, it has, I think, yeah, PC, COVID, whatever. We had a really good first, 3-4 years, and then COVID hit, and now we are feeling the effects of the downturn in the economy. People having less money to spend. So unfortunately, we're the sort of first thing that goes. We're seen as a luxury, going out and eating and drinking. But I am optimistic. I'm nervous. Like as other panellists have said, I feel like we're running out of time to be airport ready, whatever that means. And yeah, I really hope that we can capture all those international tourists at least for a couple of nights out in Penrith and around here.
Mike, optimistic?
I've been never been more optimistic about things, and I know there's been this discussion around venues closing and so forth, but when we took on the role, what had actually happened is there had been a mass exodus of creative talent from Sydney to other parts of the state and the country, and I can see that starting to now return. And there's a new restaurant opening up next week, Morena in Martin Place, Pride of Place. That restaurant operator began his journey in Surrey Hills 10 years ago, couldn't make it work, went to Melbourne, built an empire, and now he's back. And that's a really strong message to end this one on. Like, as a state, New South Wales, only place on the planet with a 24-hour economy. It's the biggest signal to the capital markets that we're ready open for business. We've got work to do in terms of fixing the regulatory system, but at least we recognise that, and there's a plan to improve that going forward.
Well, I think airport ready in this space, getting really close to the ground, probably looks like uptown program, creating of a bit of coordination and branding as a district, shared resources, shared capacity, shared responsibility, and then Penrith, Liverpool, Campbelltown becoming purple flag districts, so that when people do arrive here, they're getting the same experience that we're offering to locals.
It's almost like you wrote the plan.
Thanks very much for both coming along. It's been great to get a little bit under the hood on the hospitality side of things. We have seen a few bumpy patches, but it's good to know that people who are prepared to do the legwork take responsibility, and that government really is trying to make the operating environment a little bit easier.
Thanks very much.
Cool. Thanks,
everyone,
guys.
for having us.
You gotta wait, right?
It's like asking your favourite child.
Experience.
You can't talk about your favourite kids, but it's the venue I haven't been yet is where I always want to go. And if I'm a little bit tawdry tonight, it's because I've been out last night. I hit 3 different bars in the city, including the Caterpillar Club, which is, it's a great story of reinvention. It's a former notorious site. Actually has a 5 a.m. licence. It's been taken over by great operators, being the Swill House Group, and it was a line out the door at 6 p.m.
Live music every night. Yeah.
What about you, Jess? You were in the UK. What's humming in the UK?
God, a long time ago, but I was there for a long time. I was in fine dining, worked in Michelin star, so probably my favourite dining experience was the Ledbury. Brett Graham, fellow Aussie, he was amazing. Yeah.
Okay. And I thought Stuart...
Don't I get a go?
No,
Yeah,
Stuart.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, well, I was just going to say, I read
you
an
go.
article the other day in the paper about someone chipping consultants working from cafes, and I thought if that ever happened to me, I'd never be able to work ever again.
Where's
I
your
feel
favourite?
I feel like Mr. Watkins and Percy Plunkett's are like my office.
I see you there often.
Always welcome.
And I was going to think you were asking the question, what keeps you awake at night? But instead you turned it in, are you optimistic? That was
Well,
very-
yes, these guys
very
don't
good.
sleep at night.
Yeah, they don't sleep at night. Okay, thank you so much,
Thank
Michael and Jessica.
Thank you.
And well, It'll come as no surprise to those who participated in the latest poll. Should laws and regulations be relaxed to facilitate more economic activity at night?
So, Richard, I want to call this one out, because I know this looks like a statement of the obvious. But if your local government or your state government or federal government, the administration is constantly feeling or being told that the public wants less risk and wants more regulation, because that's what they're delivering. Mike's very existence is about minimising it. So this overwhelming position from the room is really a strong message to local government operators and regulators that there's a willingness in the community to accept more risk. And it's about finding the partnerships through districts, purple flag programs, coordinations. This is not just a joke, this is a really overwhelming position about how we think about risk in the community.
We could add to it by saying including your children. People might take a different view, but I agree with you. I think we've got to call it out. And this question about purple flags, when are we going to see purple flags flying in Penrith? That's a good one. We'll invite Michael back to enjoy that one.